Hey, what is up, guys? It is Slicker Slickmoff here, back again with another video, and I am joined once again by Teresa. Her channel, Jester Bell, will be linked down in the description below. Jester Bell, you were just monetized,
Hmm.
past 2,000 subscribers. Congratulations.
Thank you. It was partially due to your help in your channel.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. I'm glad to hear that. Everybody go subscribe. I'll add her in the title, and then also check down in the description below. Today we are talking about the Suicide Squad game and the leaks that have emerged. And the Twitter is aflame. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's upset about the Suicide Squad game and the games as a service model. So for those of you that I should catch up with the news, there was a 4chan post, and actually a legitimate 4chan post. It literally was a screenshot of the game. And it showed that there is a battle pass in the game. And it basically shows like a loading screen. I'm not going to put the image up here by any means because I will get 100% copyright struck by Warner Brothers. But basically, they're at a loading screen, and there's 3 other characters in a lobby. So it's like a 4-player co-op. They're loading a map. I forget what the map is, and seemingly they're going to enter into this mission. It kind of looks like a Destiny 2 kind of setup to it. And there's also in the top right, you can see that there's the battle pass. For those of you that don't know, the battle pass is something that's used a lot in shooter games like Warzone and Fortnite, and it's basically where you pay a monthly fee and you get exclusive sort of benefits and in the multiplayer mode. So immediately everybody is really upset about this, and I think that there's a few different perspectives on this, and I'll tell you where I fall. But first, like, there's what Evan Filark is saying on Twitter, which he's getting a ton of traction for his take on it. And what he's saying is, like, it's really weird that Rocksteady, who's known for their single player story games, is making a sort of game as a service live action multiplayer game with a battle pass and monthly fees. And it just feels very weird that Rocksteady, who's known for their single player stories, is doing this. And then there's the other side of it, which is what I kind of tweeted initially, which is that the thing to consider is that, yes, it is kind of bizarre to some extent, but also keep in mind that there is still a single player story mode, which we saw a trailer for just a few months ago at the VGAs, and it looks really good. Kevin Conroy voiced Batman, his final performance. That's going to be really cool to see, obviously. Very bittersweet, and just like so many interesting things happening with the game, and the story mode I do think will still be solid. But at the same point, I do see Evan's point, and I understand what Evan is saying in that. Uh, and my take on it is just like, it's weird that every single game is the same these days. Every single game is a games as a service live action model where you buy skins and you looter shooters, you loot up and level up, and even Gotham Knights borrowed this model. As soon as I saw the gameplay where you have these level ups over your head, I was like, okay, it's games as a service, right? And so it's like Destiny, and then Shadow of War utilize this. Like every Warner Brothers title has this component, and like I'm joking on Twitter, like I feel like The Last of Us 3 is gonna have like some sort of level up system or some loot system in it. I just feel like even the most single player driven, story driven games are now being pushed in this direction. But Teresa, I'm curious to get your thoughts on all of this and the news altogether. So I also just wanted to make it clear to the audience that there are kind of like the doomsdayers on Twitter who are saying that like this game is only games as a service, which is not true. There is a single player. There is a single player to the game. I want to make that very clear. But people are pretty upset about this co-op mode, and just curious to get your thoughts on it.
Well, first of all, just to go back before we got this leak, we got another leak that didn't gain as much traction. They were both from 4chan. Anyway, it was this leak that the Suicide Squad game is going to retcon the entire like almost all of the Arkham universe except for Arkham Asylum. And that one got people mad, but most people didn't think it was true. Apparently, the developers come out and say that it's not true now. Of course, as somebody mentioned in my comment section, that is what Naughty Dog did when it came to the Last of Us leaks. They're like, it's not true. That's not going to happen. But
Rocksteady also said that the Arkham Knight in 2015 was an original character when it was
that
literally
is
Jason
true.
Todd.
They lie. They lie. They
They
lie
do
all the
lie.
time.
Not Rocksteady, just in general. Like these devs lie. Yeah.
I don't know, I'm still skeptical about that. Apparently, like, the part of the reason that they were going to retcon the universe was to explain why Deadshot has a different skin color now, which sounded ridiculous to me. And they said also to explain why Batman is alive, even though Arkham Knight made it ambiguous, I guess, um on it, whether or not he was it anyway. So I kind of wrote it off and like, it's probably not true. I just won't worry about it. But then these other leaks came out with the picture that is real. And I'm like, okay, is 4chan actually getting stuff that is actually involved with the game. So the story leaks bother me. But anyway, as for the gameplay, like the battle pass, like I don't like games where they make you feel obligated, like you have to constantly be spending on it, not just for DLC, but a monthly fee on it. I've tried to play games with that where that's the model, and what the problem is, I'll go through times. Maybe it's different for somebody else who's like hardcore gamer, maybe streaming on YouTube and Twitch, but for me, there might be a time where I can't play it as much because I've got other stuff going on. And so what I found, this is what happened before, is that I would pay a month or two for something, or 3 months, and then I would find like, oh, I'm not playing this at all now. I just wasted this money on a game I'm not going to play. So I understand why people don't even want to go near this game, especially since the leak is not focusing on there being a solo mode. It's focusing on this battle pass and all of that. And honestly, I almost get the same impression that I was from Gotham Knights, that people were already a bit negative on this game coming in because it's not a straight up Batman game. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I feel like people almost are looking for things to be upset about with these games. So I think that that's why they're focusing on it. But yeah, so far I don't feel really optimistic about this game with the negative leaks about the story and the system. I'm still not really liking what I see of it so far. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think just on a broader scale, Gotham Knights obviously underperformed in terms of sales,
Yeah.
and that's why everybody's so, like, myself included, I'm asking where the DLC is, but there's probably a pretty good chance that they're just going to move on and just scrap it and not even do a season pass because the game didn't do well in terms of sales. One thing that's interesting, I tweeted about this, is that I've heard a little murmur, which, again, take this for what it's worth. I'm no Jason Schreier.
Hey guys, I wanted to recommend a comic for you that I read recently. It's made by a good friend of mine, Javier, and it's called The Wombat. He sent this to me. I read it. I really enjoyed it. I'm not being paid to promote this at all. I just wanted to share it with you all, and I actually have a 10% off discount code. I don't get any kickback for it or anything, just because I really want to promote it. Again, my friend Javier, this is his first comic book, his new comic line, Ounce Comics, great indie comic line, and this is the first issue that he's released. So really want you all to go check it out and read it. It's definitely it's definitely like R-rated. It's kind of edgy in terms of language and violence and other things like that, which you wouldn't expect, given that it is featuring around a wombat. Kind of, you have to read it to understand it, but it's very unique and different, and I think that you guys will really enjoy it, especially if you're a fan of DC Comics, particularly more like the Black Label, edgy kind of comics. This is a really interesting premise to this, which I won't spoil, but you have to check it out to know what I'm talking about. It's $3. It's only $3, so it's definitely worth checking out, and highly recommend you guys read indie comics. I'm a big fan of DC, as everybody knows, but I also really like a lot of indie comics, and I definitely recommend The Wombat #1. I'll link it down in the description below, and check out other indie comics as well, if you haven't. If you've never ventured out of DC or Marvel, I highly recommend it. It's definitely worth your time. And so again, The Wombat #1, link down below. Please go support it. Would really appreciate it. Thank you guys.
You're no Grace Randolph.
I'm no Grace Randolph, right? But I have heard that that David Zaslav at WB, the new regime over at WB, is interested in re-exploring Arkham. And the thing that's interesting about this, and I mean, it makes perfect sense from a monetary perspective, right? So, like, this game has taken basically 8 years to make at this point. Arkham Knight came out in 2015. This game's going to come out in 2023. So 8 years of developing this one game. Keep in mind that Arkham Asylum and Arkham City were both developed and released within 2 years. Actually, Arkham City came out less than 2 years after Arkham Asylum. Came out in 2009. Arkham City came out in 2011. So, like, literally 2 years to make one of the best superhero video games ever made. It's like a 6-hour compact solo story game that took 2 years to make, and got like a 97 on Metacritic or whatever, and basically like straight A reviews. And then this game is taking 8 years. It's not even as desired as a Batman game, obviously, and it's not going to get as good of reviews, and it probably won't sell as well. So you take all those factors into account, that the game is taking 4 times as long to make. The staff at Rocksteady is 2.5 times the size it was. to develop Batman Arkham City, and it's taking 4 times as long to make. So these games, and the reason why is because every single game has to be the same these days. There is no 5-hour story single player game anymore. It's literally like you're either making GTA 6 or you're not making a game at all. And that's just the way that I feel about this. And that goes back to Evan's point, right? Is that every single game, every single developer feels like they have to compete with Grand Theft Auto or whatever in terms of the open world size. Every year we hear, oh, this map is the biggest open world ever. This is the biggest story. Our story is 30 hours long. Our story is 90 hours long. You won't even be able to finish our game. And it's just like, is this supposed to be cool? Are we supposed to like this? And so basically all these games are padded with all of these level up systems to make the game seem artificially longer than they are. And I'm playing through Gotham Knights, and I like the story, but part of me just feels like there's so much filler in the game. There's so much uh, just nonsense in the game to pad the length of it. And you even saw that in Gotham Knights in particular with how the side missions, you had to play the side missions to get to the end of the game. So Harley was kind of relevant to the main story, but the other side missions really weren't. I mean, Clayface, you take him out, take Mr. Freeze out, it doesn't really matter to the main story, but they force you to play the side missions to be like, oh, well, our game is 15 hours long. And with this game, I'm sure that one of the bragging points is going to be the open world is 10 times the size of Arkham Knight or whatever. And I just think at the end of the day, we're going to look back at it and say, okay, the open world is really big, but for what? For taking 4 times as long to develop a game that's half as good as these prior games that were, yes, a smaller scale, but overall better. So I don't know. It's just really bizarre to me that it doesn't matter what the IP is. It could be Shadow of War. It could be Gotham Knights. It could be Suicide Squad. It could be shooter games like Destiny. All of these games are the same. They're the same Avengers. They're the same game. They're like looter, level up, shoot 'em games where you get to level 50 and you fight bosses with increasing health based upon their level, and then you got to grind for 27,000 hours to get to the right loot, and then you fight the big boss. And to me, it's just a little bit exhausting. Again, this is kind of an aside from the story single player mode, but that's just kind of my thoughts on the games as a service, is that it definitely does feel like we're living in the upside down, that Rocksteady is making this games as a service live action mode. If I had told you in 2015 or in 2011, hey, the guys who made Arkham City, they're going to make a games as a service live action open world looter game, I just don't think anybody would believe me. But here we are in 2023, and that's reality.
Well, I will say, Spider-Man PS4 was a bit better because while they kind of tried to encourage you to do side missions, it was a story mode where you didn't necessarily have to do them in order to get to the end of the story. Like, I think there was only a few points in the game where they said, okay, Peter Parker needs to like think for a while, so go do this mission. I think that that's what they did. But I played through when I first played Spider-Man PS4, I played through it the first time and I was more interested in finishing the story. And so I just left all of the side missions and other things you can get on the side. So when it comes to, I don't like doing all that stuff where you have to, like, there's 5,000 side missions, and in Spider-Man it's like Spider-Man helps a guy catch his pigeons at one point, and you have to catch the pigeons for this guy, and then you have to fight Taskmaster and another thing. I don't like it when it seems like there's so much that's irrelevant to the story. But if I can have it on the side where I'm going on the main story, then I'm fine with that. Um, I hope every game out there isn't like the Avengers Epics game, like you said, because I couldn't finish that game. It was so bad.
It was terrible.
Yeah. So, but I've been feeling this way. How I know that this can't be true, but I almost feel like Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad have become like write-off games. Almost like behind the scenes are like, okay, we know this isn't going to go do that well, so let's just throw it out there. I mean, that can't be the true with Suicide Squad because it took them like 8 years to make it, but it just feels like they're going to be thrown out there, and they know there's going to be things that people don't like, and then they're going to underperform, and then they're going to be like, okay, let's move on to something else. I don't know about David Zaslav wanting to re-explore the Arkham universe. Everything about David Zaslav right now seems to be, what can I cut to save money? So I don't know about that rumor. What I really want, though, I was saying this today on my own live stream, is because it feels like with both Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad that they really actually wanted to be more Batman games, and that they weren't actually allowed to do that. So I'm just wondering, when are we going to get a straight up Batman game again, and like in the style of the Arkham games? So I'm wondering if after like it's kind of Suicide Squad is kind of DOA right now, and frankly, nobody cares about that IP as much as Batman. So I'm wondering, is their next direction going to be finally getting us a Batman game? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, and that's what David Zaslav, like, I think that he's looking at it from kind of a business sense, right? And
Yeah.
he is very much so business oriented, and his decision to cancel a lot of those movies actually is a business decision to get the tax write off and to save money.
Yeah.
So he did that to save money. And with the Arkham games, though, it's like the exact opposite in the sense that all four of the games that they released were profitable. The amount that they spent, they made back many times over in terms of profit. And I just think that he's looking at it as like, okay, so Gotham Knights didn't do well, but Batman's not in it really. And Batman was in all these other four games that don't take as long to make. They're not nearly as expensive to make, and they're much more profitable. They sell very well, and they're reviewed great. So why exactly did we discontinue doing them? And I think that he's kind of looking at it through just like sort of he's just kind of puzzled looking at the prior regime and their decision, because if you remember, Rocksteady actually wanted this game that they're releasing to be Superman. And the rumor is that Warner Brothers was like, no, you can't do Superman, because they didn't feel like it was possible to make a Superman game. And to some extent, I kind of understand that. I also think that Rocksteady is Rocksteady. They're the best at what they do, and they should have probably let them take that risk. And if they're going to spend 8 years on a game, I'd rather them spend 8 years on Superman than Suicide Squad. That's just me personally. So I think that that's the perspective that David Zaslav is looking at it, in saying that there is kind of also the built-in advantage that because they've left the franchise alone for about 10 years, that that does kind of help in terms of coming back to it. Because I would say after Arkham Knight, it's kind of like, where do you go with it? You know, do you do they were going to do Batman Beyond kind of thing, where it was like Damian Wayne was in it, and I'd heard about that many like 2 years before that game was canceled. Like, I heard about that very early in the development process about that game, and then
Which they lied about as well. They lied that there was a Damian Wayne game.
right, and when I posted about that, everybody they denied it, and then everybody was like attacking me and be like, you liar, they said it's not true and it's not happening. And then of course and then probably I would say 3 years after I posted that video revealing and walking through the images, they released somebody leaked the images. I don't know who. I did not leak them, but somebody leaked the exact images that I describe in detail, and everybody saw that I was right about it. But in terms of this case, this is just really me promoting myself and how amazing I am. I'm just kidding. I literally, somebody just sent me the images. It's not because of I did anything brilliant. I just like somebody knew that I was in this space and would be interested in it. But yeah, that ended up being true. And I just think that that's what Warner Brothers is looking at, to be honest, is they're looking at like, why did we necessarily discontinue the franchise? And it kind of works again from the fan side, because now that we've had 10 years without these games, we realize kind of how much we miss them. So I think in the next 5 years might be ambitious, like probably the tail end of 5 years, we will be getting another Arkham game. But I don't know if one's in development right now. Maybe not. They're definitely looking at it, interested in it. So we'll see. We'll see.
I'd wonder if that would. I'm still stuck up on that they're going to wreck on the Arkham games rumor, but I wonder if that would be why they might do that. Like, we want to shift things around to where we want for this new universe that's still Arkham, but it's not. But I guess that would just retcon way too much. But I was just thinking,
why would you retcon the best Arkham game?
I don't know why
the
he would
best
do
game.
that.
Why would you
But
retcon that?
DC has made so many choices that baffle me over the years that I'm like, well, maybe it is true. Of course, here's one thing. The Joker died at the end of Arkham City, and I know DC, they use the Joker like crazy. They insert him into everything. They try to use him as much as they can. So I'm just wondering, okay, so if we continue with the Arkham universe, what are they going to do to bring him back? There's things to do with that, but I just wonder about it, because just sometimes when they want to resurrect something, there's still some other elements that they might want to work with, like if there's any plot point that they want to do, but maybe the Arkham games made that impossible, like a character dying or something. I'm wondering, is there anything that they would want to change for a new universe, or do you think that they would just, straight up pick up where Arkham Knight left off and go from there, or if Suicide Squad, any of these crazy leaks are untrue, like would they just pick up where Suicide Squad left off?
Well, to be honest, it really depends upon what they do with Batman in this game, because Batman is basically the Nightmare Bat in this game. It kind of looks like, right? So he's alive, clearly. He looks kind of like zombified a little bit, like kind of undead or something. Um, so they're kind of basically continuing the Nightmare Bat thing, which really makes me think that they're not going in that direction of retconning Arkham City and Arkham Knight. It seems pretty evident to me that this Batman is the post Arkham Knight Nightfall Batman. That's just my take on it. So because of that, and given that, it depends on what they do with him in this game. If he somehow is like brought back to his senses, or like because he's alive. There's nothing wrong with him. It's really just the Nightfall Bat is kind of like more of a motif. It's kind of more of like a metaphor than anything else, right? It's not like he's actually in this like zombified Nightmare Bat state. It seems that he does use the like Scarecrow formula to some extent, but I just think that in some way there's some sort of out here. And if Rocksteady's smart in this game, while they can't bring Batman back, they obviously can't bring Kevin Conroy back, they can bring Batman back, and they can sort of undo the Nightfall protocol. And I think if they're smart, that's what they do. And then you introduce a sequel, Batman Arkham Knight 2, kind of a sequel to Arkham Knight, and it perhaps includes Damian and the Bat family. Like, then you bring Barbara in as Oracle again, because she was I guess she's still Oracle, but and then you have Nightwing in Bloodhaven, and then you basically bring in Damian. That's probably what I would do if I were them, but I don't know. I really don't know if they will do that. I also just think, like, after this game, not that we want to look too far ahead, but they were vetoed doing Superman. They just spent 8 years on Suicide Squad. It's not gonna do well. I'm sorry, it's just not. In terms of sales, it's like kind of DOA. So I just think that their next, I don't know what they would do necessarily that would top doing another Batman game. Like, that's what people want from them. Also, it's so funny. The images of the canceled Damian game are popping up here on the TV behind me. I was just playing some random video. Oh, it's a Degenerate J video. Anyway, continue.
Oh, what I was gonna say that came to me watching the video behind you and listening to what you were saying. This is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. If they want to continue with this universe in any way, like, they're not going to be able to, at the very least, kill Batman. But I'm like, how can you have a Kill the Justice League game if you don't actually kill the Justice League? So, do you think that they're going to like kill off everyone except Batman, or what do you think they're going to do with that?
No, I don't think they're gonna kill. I don't think they're gonna kill off hardly anybody. I think
Why?
they'll
How
kill
can
off
it be called Kill the Justice League then?
marketing.
Yeah.
And just like how in Batman v Superman, there was about 7 minutes of Batman v Superman, and the rest was about a bullet in the desert and Doomsday, CGI Doomsday. So yeah, I mean, it's marketing. I just don't. It's a good point though. It's a good point. But and maybe that's what they're building up to, a Justice League game. But I don't know. I think that actually it's kind of exciting for me to think about Rocksteady returning to Arkham. I don't know that they want to, but now with Gaz and Sefton leaving, the founders of the studio who really sort of founded the Arkham series and were the guiding force for that game franchise, it would make sense for them to go back in that direction. But I'd be curious to hear from you, Teresa. If not a Batman game, what game would you want them to see them do after this one?
Well, I just wanted to say first that this game should be called Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and then kinda like right there, like, I don't, not hyphens, but whatever you call it, kind of.
Or at least
Anyway,
tries to, in parentheses.
or they try Suicide Squad try to kill the Justice League. That's a better title. I would buy that game no matter what the gameplay is.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, another game besides Batman. Well, the games that I would probably want besides Batman are the games that they would never make. Like, I think that a Green Arrow game would actually be kind of interesting, even though that might be a little bit similar to Batman. But like a game where we could introduce like Black Canary and those kinds of characters and make them playable would be interesting. A Green Lantern game. Has there ever been a Green Lantern game before?
I think there was. I could be wrong. I think there was one on like PS2. Has there ever been a good Green Lantern game? Definitely not. There might have been like one. I can't remember. I've certainly not one that I've played.
Well, Green Lantern is a character that I think would be interesting to do a game, but also I actually would like to see a good Superman game. And I think that it can be done. I think that the main thing that they're because one of the most notoriously bad Superman games was, well, I mean, games period was a game called Superman. I think was it for Nintendo 64? I think it
Oh
was.
my, sorry to interrupt. I just realized there was a movie tie-in game to the shitty Ryan Reynolds movie. There
Oh,
was a
really?
video game.
Okay, well,
It's
it
called
must
Green
not have been
Lantern
good.
Rise of the Manhunters.
Well, I mean, there was a Thor, like for the 2011 Thor, there
Right.
was a Thor tie game, and I remember
Oh,
people saying it
this
was
game
terrible.
must
There
be
was
so bad.
that was back when they were just making like video games for every movie. Like there was an Iron Man 2 video game, and the graphics were terrible. They don't do that anymore, really. But anyway, I would like to see a Superman game. I don't think that the gameplay for Flight would be as difficult as people think because there have been other games that have achieved Flight. I remember actually if you the Lego games when you get characters in the Lego games where characters can fly, they actually do a pretty good job of how you can navigate that with the controls and sort of give you the sense that you're really going fast, but still be controlled of what you can see. Anyway, I would like them to try a Superman game. You know, with Superman in general in media, I feel like WB has just had this attitude towards Superman that like, well, he's irrelevant and we don't know how to make him relevant again. And that's been their attitude with a lot of things Superman. But David Zaslav, he is pushing that they're going to make a new Superman movie, and he actually indicated that in an interview that he realizes that they have all these franchises and very well-known IPs are just sitting on and not using. So I'm hoping that maybe with his leadership and new leadership that they finally think, okay, let's try to make Superman work. Let's not just throw in the towel because I feel like Batman is used so much because Batman, well, obviously because he sells, but he's an easy sell. They don't really have to be too afraid, like the Batman movie. Like, oh, people are going to see it because it's Batman. But Superman, they're afraid that he doesn't connect with people anymore. But at the same time, they're not really putting much effort into making him connect with people. So I hope that we see WB finally put some more effort into the Superman franchise once again, and maybe we'll get a Superman game.
That is interesting thinking about how David Zaslav is pushing Superman so heavily and just really the whole team at DC Films or DC Studios as they call it now is pushing that and that does make sense that perhaps Rocksteady could go back in that direction after being sort of vetoed of that request initially. Um, to work on a Superman game. And then WB Games Montreal, I'm not so sure what they do. Definitely not a Gotham Knights 2. There definitely will not be any like franchise surrounding it. So they're going to pivot away from that. And that's where, again, I mean, David Zaslav, he literally might look at it and say that WB Games Montreal does the Arkham games from now on, and that they do an Arkham Origins 2, or they maybe do a follow up to Arkham Knight, which they were developing again earlier. Rocksteady was never developing a sequel to Arkham Knight. That was WB Games Montreal who was developing that, and it was ultimately scrapped because starring Damian Wayne, I feel like that would have, because it would have Batman in the title, that might have sold better, but I feel like it would have been hated even more just because Damian Wayne is so unlikable. And
Yeah.
when people think of Batman, they just don't think of Damian Wayne. I just think that's weird. And then also like the villains that they were going to include, like White Rabbit was like this 70-year-old grandma with like on a ventilator. True story. Like just it would have been weird. I think it makes sense why they canceled it. But it might have actually sold better than Gotham Knights, to be honest. I don't know. But yeah, so going back to the Suicide Squad game, generally in terms of your level of anticipation, what would you say? Are you feeling like excited for the game? You just kind of want to wait and see, or are you kind of fed up with it and not too excited?
Well, when I don't buy a video game or I don't have somebody else buy it and play it, then I just watch the cutscenes online if I'm just still halfway curious about it. But right now, honestly, my anticipation level is I'm not even really curious to see the cutscenes. I kind of just want to
Really?
move on. Yes, I kind of just want to move on to something else, especially because, well, you have to understand, when the first trailer for this game came out, I was really curious to what it would be, but the same thing happened with me with Gotham Knights, and I think that this kills anything from games to movies when you just draw it out too long. Gotham Knights, I was really hyped for, and then they just started drawing it out so much, and then at a point I wasn't even following it anymore because it just kept getting delayed and getting delayed. And then it finally came out, and people were saying it's not even good. And so I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not even missing anything with this game. But I did watch a lot of the cutscenes for it. So, but with Suicide Squad, I'm just like, I'm feeling a bit of deja vu from Gotham Knights. Not necessarily from the gameplay. I mean, I know people are really mad about the gameplay, and I don't like that element either. But so Suicide Squad was another game where we got the first trailer for it like 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Was it 2 or 3 years ago by the time it comes out? And so we've just been waiting so long for it, and I always feel like I'm waiting for the next release date for it. And so I was just like, well, if it comes out, it comes out, but I'm not really paying attention to it. And it wasn't on my radar until these leaks came out, and all these leaks have been negative things about the game. And so now this is at a point where I'm like, I'm not even like, maybe something will come out to change my mind, and I'll be curious to see the story, and like I want to see if the gameplay works out, but I don't think it will at this point. But yeah, I'm just at a point where I'm like, this Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad, they seem like two games that took a while to come out, and they're not working out. And so I'm just kind of curious in what the next era of these DC games brings rather than these two.
Yeah. Um, and again, these two games took like a really long amount of time to make. I mean, they were literally like 8, 9 years in the making, and and they're going to be underwhelming in terms of sales. I don't think that they're going to make money. And when you look at the cost of like creating a game, supporting a studio of hundreds of employees across 8 years, you need to sell a lot of games to break even. And I don't think that they did that for either of these games. The Suicide Squad is definitely not going to. And it's kind of weird because Rocksteady's known for gameplay. That's what they're known for, is like making games with really, really excellent gameplay. And I anticipate that this game will have that, to be honest. I think that the gameplay will be really, really good. At the same point, though, it is a reskinned games as a service model game. It's really no different from any other games as a service 4-player co-op game on the market right now. It's just reskinned with a different IP. And it's a reskinned IP kind of the Avengers game, and the story will just be better than Avengers, which isn't saying that much, but it will be better. Um, so, that's kind of where I'm at with it. I'll be interested to see kind of um, where they go after this game, particularly depending upon how it sells. And look, I could be wrong. Maybe it's going to sell exceptionally well. I just don't really see that happening at this point.
Here's why I think it won't sell well. I think already said this, but it's just that Suicide Squad isn't as big of a thing as Batman or even Superman or any of this stuff. Because what happened with Suicide Squad is it was, it was sort of a lesser, like it went on, but it was a bit of a lesser known IP from comics. And then in 2009, the idea that they might make a movie out of it started to come up, and that's why you all of a sudden saw it pushed more in comics. Like with the New 52, there was that big series by Adam Glass, and that's was the first time that they tried to push Suicide Squad a bit artificially to be this big thing in comics, when it never was. Like it definitely has some good runs, but it wasn't huge. But then Guardians of the Galaxy came out, and all of a sudden it's like they pushed a button and we're like, okay, that Suicide Squad movie that we were making, it's going to come out now. And then they rushed it, and everyone knows what happened with Suicide Squad. It came out, it made a lot of money, but it was panned by critics. And so everything for the past like 6 years or 7 years even from Suicide Squad, the IP feels like it's running off of the success of that 2016 movie, where they're like, okay, it wasn't well received, but it made a lot of money, so we want to hold on to this IP. So they went on and they kept pushing them in the comics for a long time, even though the comics still were not selling. And there was all this talk that there was going to be a Suicide Squad sequel, like with Will Smith and Jared Leto, like a direct sequel. And then that kind of was in, like, first they said it was fast tracked, it was coming immediately, and then Will Smith like decided to go do something else, and so it didn't happen. And then it eventually went to James Gunn, and even then it almost didn't happen because they were like, James Gunn, you can do Superman, you can do the Suicide Squad, something like that. And he went and did the Suicide Squad. So then finally, years trying to get like this big movie to capitalize on Suicide Squad's success, James Gunn does it and he makes it work, and it is well received, but it's the opposite effect where then that movie did not make a lot of money. And so Suicide Squad has kind of been disappearing as an IP ever since. Like there is not, they went from pushing a comic series constantly, even though it wouldn't sell, to now there's no Suicide Squad comic. And I don't think that, well, I could be wrong. I don't think James Gunn is going to do a directly Suicide Squad thing. I think he might use some of the characters from that movie again. I don't think he's going to do a direct sequel though, but it kind of feels like the Squad stuff just is not, it just does not interest people. And I think that first Suicide Squad movie really tainted the interest, actually, despite it making money. Like you have to see a movie first before you know you don't like it, in a lot of cases anyway. So I think that this Suicide Squad game, I don't think it's going to make a lot of money. And I also think that it's might be the last gasp of air this Suicide Squad franchise even has, which is going to be interesting because it's like if you were a DC fan, then Suicide Squad would kind of be inserted into everything. Like they made the 2014 Batman Assault on Arkham movie that was basically just a Suicide Squad movie. And so it was like they pushed it so much to make it a thing, and now going into this decade, it feels like it might not even be a thing at all anymore. So I don't think that this game is going to do well. It is based on the IP it is, and if it doesn't have that great a gameplay. But if the gameplay is good, then maybe word of mouth will make it so it at least does better than Gotham Knights.
And if I recall, the Suicide Squad Assault on Arkham film was actually a tie into the Arkham universe. It was canon to the Arkham video games. And so that was kind of their way to be like, oh, look, Arkham's popular. Let's tie it into that. Let's like make the Suicide Squad connected to Arkham. And then in Arkham Origins, they kind of teased it a little bit. So you saw that in the video games too, that they were, to your point, they were trying to use every means available to make the Suicide Squad a thing and to make it mainstream. And they weren't able to do that with the Suicide Squad. They were able to do that with Harley. And Harley has she's pretty much always been a fan favorite. She's always had a big following and she's been popular. But you know, people can't really deny that Margot Robbie very much so popularized that character in 2016. Harley Quinn was the #1 Halloween costume in the world. And that was because of that film and because of the Suicide Squad movie. And oddly enough, a lot of people didn't even see the movie, but they still wore the costume.
Yeah.
And so it, like, she kind of transcended that film, even though it did get negative reviews. But which, by the way, I'm curious, you're a big Harley fan. What are your thoughts on Margot Robbie's portrayal of the character?
Well, I actually just got done with a video where I said that like the title and the thumbnail declared that she was not, but if you actually watch the video, I get into my feelings over time, where I actually loved her.
Oh, so like
first.
clickbait?
Not clickbait. It's honest. It's honest.
Oh my gosh, you're such a big YouTuber now. Wow, in the classic tricks.
Anyway, I say I actually loved her in the first Suicide Squad, but I've kind of done like a multiple video series on this about how sales wise, she, like, since 2016, the character has not been capitalized on from that success. Like they've been doing things that are like releasing very different versions of her and like polarizing people and just not using her correctly. So it's interesting, as I said in my video, how Harley was a certain character. She was actually very vicious and very dark and had a very, very sexy style in Suicide Squad. And then intentionally, Margot Robbie, there were things that she didn't like about that portrayal of the character. She didn't like the outfits. She did not want to do anything more with Jared Leto's Joker, actually, which she's actually admitted in interviews. So Birds of Prey wound up being a very different version. Like if you really get into it, it's a very different version. And somewhat so is the Suicide Squad. They're much more playful versions. So what I basically said was, it's interesting how the Suicide Squad was so big, even if you didn't see the movie, then the outfits. And it's interesting to me how subsequent films didn't really capitalize on that as much. So it's in, and I've talked to like people I know who aren't really into comics and stuff talk about how the problem is more so that they've just released so many different versions of the character since then, like trying to make her more of a solo character, trying to make her into this big franchise thing, and then just kind of dividing people. So I think that I don't like, she's just as well known as she's ever been. And I still like a Halloween this year. We were driving and we saw somebody in a Daddy's Little Monster Harley costume. Like, even though like nobody cares about that Suicide Squad film, but there are still people wearing that costume. So my thoughts are, I actually said in my conclusion of the video that I was actually ready to move on from Margot's Harley, because I think that she has kind of become as mangled as everything else in the DCEU, where there's different directions that people wanted to go into and the story is not as solid. So I was like, I'll be ready if we get a different version in the Reeves verse.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to Henry Cavill and other people
Yeah.
who have done a really good job in their respective role, but because the universe is such a cluster F, you kind of have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You kind of just have to get rid of everything. So even though Margot's Harley Quinn was really quite good, I felt in one of the highlights of the DCEU, you can't just reboot everything except for like, oh, this one thing or this two, you kind of have to reboot everything. So, and I think you're right. I think that the Suicide Squad is kind of like they had their chance, right? I mean, it was the first movie, the second movie, neither did that well. Well, the first did very well at the box office, but was panned. The second one didn't do well at the box. James Gunn's movie did not do well at the box office, even though
Yeah.
it was objectively better. It did quite a bit worse. I think like half as much as the first one at the box office.
Oh, not even that much. It's the lowest. Well, part of this is from COVID, yes, but you also have to consider that other movies, like other superhero and franchise movies that aren't even as well known, came out and did a lot better. But it made like 160 million, I want to say, and then it was on HBO Max. And it got like
That low?
1 million. Yeah, it was like 160 million worldwide.
Oh yeah, you're right. Box once, yeah, 170.
Well,
That's low.
170, close.
That's very close. I thought it was like 400.
Yeah.
I thought I was way off.
I
In
think
terms of,
Shang-Chi that year got like 400 million. I think Black Widow got 400 million.
right. So when you look at and then the first Suicide Squad, if I recall, made like 800. Let me look. Suicide Squad
Yeah.
movie box. I think it was around 800. Um, oh, that's the other one. But yeah, 746. So yeah, that's a big difference. And so when the quality of your movie goes up and then the box office is like 5 times lower, that's not a great sign for your franchise.
Yeah, that just means that people aren't interested in the IP.
Right.
And it's like a part of the problem with the Suicide Squad is when you had Suicide Squad 2016, I remember there were tons of people talking about it, even if they didn't agree with what it was doing. They were like, Batman's going to appear in the movie, and the Flash is going to appear in the movie, and Joker's going to appear in the movie, and there's a first appearance of Harley. Then for the Suicide Squad, you've got mostly F-list characters like Polka Dot Man and Ratcatcher 2. And then you've got Harley, but once again, I just feel like they didn't do what they needed to do to capitalize on that version. They kind of just let her be taken by different directors' visions. So it was kind of a recipe for failure from a marketing perspective, even if the movie was good. And so it's like I really believe that this first Suicide Squad sold so well because at that point there was still this interest in DC as a connected universe by more than just the hardcore fans. People who went and saw Batman versus Superman were curious about Suicide Squad because there was still that tie-in factor with those first three movies. So I feel like unless you have Batman and Joker show up and do something like that again for a Suicide Squad movie, I don't think that the interest is there. So once again, I think if the Suicide Squad game bombs, then that means that it's going to be the 2020s with no Suicide Squad, which is going to be weird because they were everywhere, whether you liked it or not.
Right. So then the question remains. I mean, obviously DC has Batman, and they're going to try to reboot Superman. We'll see how that goes. If that can go well, I don't know. I think that it depends on a number of factors. But I think that then what they have to look at is, well, what is another IP that they can have that can really be a reliable sort of return, like cash cow. For Marvel, it wasn't just one character that carried their entire slate. They had Captain America, they had Iron Man, they had Spider-Man, like all of these characters in the MCU. And for DC, it really very much so feels like they just have Batman right now as a consistent, reliable kind of go to. And even that, I mean, the Batman, it didn't do that well at the box office. It did well. It did well. It made money. It was profitable, but it wasn't like a $2 billion movie or anywhere close to it. And even the Batman IP is tricky because you look at Batman v Superman, and I like, if you ask me as a kid or growing up or whatever, like there's going to be a movie where Batman fights Superman, I would think that would be like the highest grossing movie of all time. Like, I just think that would, like Avatar, Titanic. No, like people want to see Batman and Superman fight. That's crazy. Everybody's going to pay to see that. My grandma's going to pay to see it. Everybody's going to pay to see it. And then it didn't even make $1 billion. And so it just feels to me like they don't really have a reliable go-to IP where they're just like, okay, this is going to make $1 billion. And Marvel has that with multiple characters. So that's what James Gunn has to figure out, and the rest of the team at DC. And beyond Batman, who do you think that they can go to? Do you think that Superman can actually do that? I don't know that he can. And then if not him, you obviously can't do the Flash because the star of the Flash is in jail like every other week.
I was going to say insane. The star of the Flash is a crazy person.
He is a crazy person. So who do you go to?
Well, I think for a while there, they were like kind of building Wonder Woman up to be that way. Like, I remember when people were like, well, Wonder Woman is the surefire one. And she even has a video game in development right now. But then Wonder Woman 1984 came out and ruined that. I think what they need to do, and I'm not sure if Superman can ever be Batman's level, because here's the thing about Batman, it's really the sort of darkness behind his character and the depth behind him that, and a lot of his villains, that I think really attracts people to that universe. And Superman, he does have stories with a lot of depth, but I'm not sure if it would ever be seen on the same level as Batman. But
he's not as cool as Batman.
Yeah,
yeah, I agree with you. Right.
I would like to see them try. I would like to see them hopefully succeed at Superman. I think that Wonder Woman, because like with Superman, there hasn't been a Superman movie like since 2013, like not a straight up Superman movie where it's a solo movie. So they have some time where they can do something and make it fresh. But Wonder Woman 1984 is still relatively recent. And so I think that it's going to be a while until there's consumer confidence in Wonder Woman again. So I'm not sure about it. I think that DC, the same problem that they've always had is that they have a hard time with consistency. Like Marvel, people would always complain that every Marvel movie is the same. Well, a lot of them would be similar, but they would be consistent, and that's why people would keep coming.
Yeah, they make the same at the box office, $1 billion every time.
Yeah. So like DC needs to figure out how they're going to do that, and like we're like at stage 0 of that. Like right now, I think, I don't know if I tweeted this or said it elsewhere, but James Gunn as CEO, he's writing the Superman movie. He's doing Peacemaker season 2 still. I don't know if it's going to be in the new universe. It might be the old universe still, and just finish that up. And he's writing another show that he hasn't announced yet, which he said. So I'm like, okay, so far James Gunn as CEO seems like the James Gunn universe where he's writing everything. And I'm not sure about that, because he has a very specific style of movies that he does, or at least that we've seen with these comic book films. And that style, in the case of something like the Suicide Squad, it's not for everybody. Like some people were turned off. I know this, they were turned off by the violence in Suicide Squad, or the humor wasn't for them. And it's for other people, but it's not for everyone. And so that's what I'm wondering about. Is James Gunn running the entire DC universe a good idea? Like, I don't see him as the guy to go to for Superman. Like I heard someone say that maybe Steven Spielberg will do a Superman movie. Like, I don't know if he's up for that right now, but he's the kind of director where I can see him doing a Superman movie.
Doesn't he shit on superhero movies like every other week though? Just
yeah,
like you just
I don't think he has. I think that James Cameron has. I think that Martin Scorsese has.
Not? Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think he has. Like I guess people were saying that because he recently had lunch with like Christopher Nolan and James Gunn. So they were wondering if maybe he met with Steven Spielberg to do the Superman
with Chris
movie.
Nolan and James Gunn?
Yeah.
That's a weird combination.
Well,
funny.
we need a Superman movie by James Gunn, written by James Gunn, directed by Steven Spielberg, and produced by Christopher Nolan. We'll see how
Yeah,
it works out.
cinematography by Chris Nolan, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I would like to see that, but I don't think that Chris Nolan wants to return to Superman movies.
Hell
superhero
no.
movies. Like
No.
he's done, not after The Dark Knight Rises.
No, but he needs something that's bigger because just like Dunkirk is like, Now he's making another historical movie.
I'm curious about
Come
Oppenheimer.
on,
I want to see it.
It's okay. It's
Hey,
all right.
he made an atomic blast with practical effects. His words.
Of course he did, but
he blew up a city with an atomic bomb just to make the movie.
But it's no Prestige. It's no Memento. It's no Inception. It's no Interstellar. Who are we kidding
give
here?
it a chance. Give it a chance.
No, I'll give it a chance. I'll give it a chance.
Yeah.
I also gave Tenet a chance, and we saw how that worked
That
out
is
for
true.
me. So.
I hated Tenet. That's true. Like,
I don't even know what it is, so I don't hate it. I just don't.
I'm rooting for Nolan. He can make his next Inception with Oppenheimer. I believe in him.
You really think so?
We'll see. It's probably going to be another Tenet. We have to see.
We will see. Okay, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we want to go over. No, I think we've covered everything. So,
everything
guys,
for Suicide Squad try to kill the Justice League.
Suicide Squad tried to kill the Justice League. We're just gonna have to wait and see. The game comes out in the summertime. So super excited to see the game. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date on all the leaks that emerge in the next couple of months regarding the game. We're getting very, very close, and everybody get your credit cards ready to enter in your Battle Pass information, billing monthly. Just make sure that you've got your credit card on lock to buy your $70 game and then pay monthly on top of that. Don't forget it.
Or save it for the new Batman game that they might do in the next 5 years.
Yeah, I gotta befriend someone at Rocksteady. I gotta get this Battle Pass for free. It's a lot of money. I'll pay for the game for free if I can get the Battle Pass. That would be good. I've never done that because I just feel like you can't really believe my reviews if I'm getting like I've never gotten review. Actually, that's not true. I did get review codes for the Telltale Batman games, but beyond that, I've never gotten review codes because I just feel like it's kind of you don't really know if someone
Batman games. They basically had barely any gameplay. They were mostly story, and you were just pressing buttons to choose outcomes. Like
Teresa, you're such a hater. You're such a hater.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
These were great games. They were.
Telltale shut down.
They're coming back. They're coming back.
They are.
All right. Yeah, I think they're coming back, aren't they?
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
they shut down because everyone like me was watching the cutscenes on YouTube rather than paying for the game.
See, now you would pay for the game and then there'd be a battle pass. So in order to unlock all the choices that you can make in the game, you have to pay for the DLC.
You have to pay like $5 for every choice you make. The
ultimate choice package, the ultimate deluxe choice package.
More choices if you
get more choices. Otherwise, you only get one choice. If you just buy the game and you don't pay for the battle pass, you get one choice. It's not even a Telltale game.
I want to play this game now.
Yeah. No, but Telltale is coming back. They're making have you played the Wolf Among Us or the Walking Dead games from 2013?
No. I think my little cousins did though, because I remember like being at my cousin's house and like the little 5-year-old cousins were playing like Walking Dead or something. So maybe I've seen it.
Been doing that, but that's all right.
My uncle would let our little cousins do anything, and so you'd be walking into their room and there'd be like blood spattered on the screen and stuff, and it's like whoa. But anyway, I've seen it.
There you go. All right, well, guys, be sure to subscribe to Teresa's channel down in the description below. Go subscribe to her. Also, ring the notification bell for this channel, and go ring the notification bell over on her channel as well. We'll be linked in the top line down in the description below. Teresa, thanks for joining, and we will meet again whenever there's more Suicide Squad game news, which I imagine we're in the final stretch. We'll be getting more very, very soon. So thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like the video, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.